It is no exaggeration that our world would look very different were it not for our great island. You know, prior to 1928, hospitals were full of people who would die of blood poisoning from a simple cut or scratch. Doctors powerless to help. That wasn't until in September 1928, when a professor of bacteriology at St. Mary's Hospital in London returned from holiday. He set about sorting through some Petri dishes when something caught his eye. That professor was called Alexander Fleming. His discovery of penicillin changed the course of history and saved over 100 million lives. The world owes a debt of gratitude to Britain. We have blazed a trail for the world, not just in science, but in the arts and in literature. We gave the world William Shakespeare and Jane Austen, George Orwell and J.K. Rowling. Charles Dickens and Ricky Gervais. British values are the ultimate gift to us. Gifts from those who conceived of them, and then the millions who laid down their lives to protect them for us. Let us not forget the sacrifices made for us to preserve this gift. Sacrifices made by men like John Greyburn. Lieutenant Greyburn was born in India and raised in Dorset. He attended Sherborne School, and then he worked for the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank before joining the war effort in 1940. He became an officer in the Oxfordshire and Buckinghamshire Light Infantry and later transferred to the newly formed Parachute Regiment. On the 17th of September 1944, as platoon commander, he led the first airborne drop into Arnhem during Operation Market Garden. Greyburn's platoon seized the Arnhem Bridge and held it under relentless enemy fire for over 3 days. Almost immediately, he was met by fierce fire from machine guns and was shot through the shoulder. Despite this, he pressed forward with extraordinary bravery. Despite having no cover, Lieutenant Greyburn continued to lead his men until the casualties became so overwhelming he was ordered to withdraw. Refusing to abandon his post, he personally directed the retreat. He insisted on being the last to leave the bridge. The enemy, recognizing his astonishing determination, resorted to extreme measures, using tanks and demolition charges. Finally, an enemy tank approached at such proximity to his position that it became impossible to hold. He was defenseless. Undeterred, Lieutenant Greyburn stood up in point-blank range of the tank and personally directed the withdrawal of his men to the main defensive line to which he had been ordered. 80 years ago to this very day, Lieutenant Greyburn was killed in action, and he was posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross. Without his inspiring leadership and personal gallantry, the Arnhem Bridge could never have been held for so long. Stories like this remind us just how much is at stake, how grateful we must all be to those who made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure we enjoy the freedoms that so many now take for granted. which is why we need patriots like you and across the country to work hard with us to save our nation. We cannot do this without your help. Time, however, is short. Our mission, urgent. The 14% of the vote share we won in July was achieved with virtually no ground campaign. By the time of the next general election, we will build the best ground campaign in the country. The enthusiasm and energy that reform has is already unsurpassed. What we need are systems and infrastructure to harness it. I've now been chairman of Reform for 2 months. In that time, we've seen our membership surge to 80,000. We've launched hundreds of Reform local constituency branches and prepared to stand thousands of candidates in local elections next year. By 2029, Reform UK will be ready to be the party of government, and Prime Minister Farage will embark on the most ambitious and bold reforms this country has seen in our lifetime. Now, we have been told by an army of skeptics that we cannot do this. We've been told that the rotten two-party system is the only show in town. Those same cynics say we could never escape the vice-like grip of the European Union. Those same cynics said we could never win parliamentary seats. Nigel Farage has already proved those doubters wrong in the way only he can. Those same cynics now say that we could never win the next election and elect him as our Prime Minister. Well, we have news for them. Just as has happened so often before in our proud history, the indomitable spirit of the British people will prevail. Our great country has seen darker times than this, and each time the British people have risen to master that moment. Each time, proud patriots like the ones in this room and across the country have come to Britain's rescue in its time of need. Each time, Britain has emerged rejuvenated and stronger than ever. Inspired by Nigel Farage's example, we will never bow to the mob, never succumb to their intimidation or cower in the face of their threats. But this is a battle for the soul of this nation, and we will not yield. We know in our hearts that this country can be saved. What we can achieve together is limited only by what you believe to be possible. Reform has unparalleled enthusiasm. We must now build the infrastructure to harness it. And we cannot do this without you. So we ask that if you can, please get involved in your local branch, volunteering to help knock on doors, deliver leaflets, and turning out the vote. This will be pivotal in our success. If you do that, we can make huge gains in the council elections next year, perform brilliantly in Scotland and Wales the year after that, and then we will see Nigel Farage at the podium of Downing Street, and we will usher in a new era of hope and prosperity for the United Kingdom. And Prime Minister Farage will secure our borders. Free freeze migration, defend and celebrate British values, stop the boats, get the knives off our streets, cut energy bills, and put British people first. We will turn this ship around. We will save this country. We will return Britain to being the poised and powerful country we know it can be, and we will leave a Britain for our children of which we can be proud. Thank you very much, Reform UK.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it is time for our final speaker. I think it's fair to say he is a true force in British politics. This man I first met when he phoned me and asked to stand in the European elections. Now, he's been variously described by people as diverse as Rod Liddell, the columnist, to Ken Clarke, the former Conservative MP, as the most important politician of a generation and the most successful. There is no doubt this man has changed British history. I'll tell you one more thing. The latest polling now places this man as the most popular leader in the United Kingdom.
It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Now just give me a second. Just give me a second. Do you like them? Very expensive. But guess what? I bought them myself. How about that? Wow, I got to tell you, the energy, the optimism, the enthusiasm that we've got in this room is not something that can be replicated by any other political party in this country, and indeed, I wonder whether there's ever been a party conference in this country with this level of energy and fun. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming along and supporting us. So it was the middle of May, end of May this year, and my life was going pretty well. I'd just had a big 60th birthday. I'm in not bad health, which is down to clean living. Great job 4 nights a week at GB News, which I was loving. Just been voted News Presenter of the Year for the 2nd year in a row. And I had not 1, but 2 grandchildren on the way. The first of whom, I'm delighted to say, was born on June the 23rd, Brexit Day. How about that? So I was doing well, making money, no pressure, no stress, no abuse from the press. Life couldn't have been better. And then Rishi Sunak calls a snap general election. And I think to myself, given the short time period, is there anything I can do? And actually, would I want to do it? Would I want to give up a really comfortable, easy life and one that involved weekends off? Would I want to give it up? And would it be possible in such a short time frame? Well, I thought to myself, we've just had 14 years of Conservative government. And the last few years, since Boris won in 2019, has been one of a complete breach of trust with the British public on a truly historic scale. And I was upset about it for the damage it does to democracy, but also upset about it because, don't forget, I stood aside in that 2019 general election because we wanted to get Brexit over the line after all those years of agony and struggle. And I thought, well, we have left, but have we taken back control of our borders? Have we given our 5.5 to 6 million men and women running their own businesses? Have we deregulated and made their lives easier and better? In fact, at almost every level, we've been betrayed. And then I thought about what was happening on our streets. The rise of knife crime, the rise of gun crime, the fear of people even in the smartest parts of London to go out for a drink or dinner and for a man to wear a watch
or a woman to wear jewellery. I thought about what mass, uncontrolled immigration on a scale the likes of which we'd never seen had done to divide our communities. I looked at the fact that, frankly, without massive public borrowing, there would have been no growth in our economy for year after year after year. An NHS in which you can't get a GP appointment, roads that are clogged beyond comprehension, and frankly, I thought to myself, Britain is broken. And then I couldn't help it. Well, if Britain is broken, then logically, Britain needs reform. So I was really in a terrible quandary as to what to do, genuinely. And then I went down to Dover for a day. I went and joined Richard up in Skegness, Lee, in his constituency of Ashfield. And I began to have people in the street walking up to me, speaking to me as if almost I was letting them down by not giving up my lovely life. Anyway, in the end, I thought, whatever obstacles, the fact we've only got a few weeks, the fact that 40% of the population don't yet know who reform even is, I thought despite all of that, actually, there are two achievable goals in those 4 weeks and 3 days. The first, clear, achievable goal was to get millions of votes, and the second, knowing as I do from bitter experience how difficult the first past the post system is, but I believe that we could establish a beachhead in Parliament by getting a few people elected. And I'm proud to say that in the early hours of the 5th of July, both of those objectives were realised. And that is, and all that is, it's just the first big step on what I now believe, if you're with me, if you support me, if you're prepared to help me, well, then it will become the first big step on what I believe can be a truly astonishing, historic journey that can do something to do our country good, to honour those that have gone before us, and to give our children and grandchildren a better future. It's the first step. Now, we could have done better. We could have done better, but at that stage of the game, and this is absolutely not knocking Richard and what he did to keep this thing alive for all those years, we weren't big enough. Give Richard a round of applause. Go on. We just, at that stage of our development, we weren't big enough, wealthy enough, professional enough to vet general election candidates properly. And we were let down. That amateurism let us down. We could have won a lot more votes, and there are lessons that we need to learn from that. So as I stood after the count in Clacton, in those early hours of July the 5th, I said that yes, of course, I would represent the constituency, the constituents in Parliament, but I had a job, and my job was to professionalise and democratise Reform UK. That was a solemn promise and pledge that I made to you, the members. On professionalisation, we've made some changes. Richard is now my deputy leader, who also sits in Parliament and subs for me as leader when I am not there, and that was a good, solid, sound appointment. I know you all agree. And then somebody of exceptional talent who I'd met over a decade ago, reappeared during the campaign on the scene. He's a young man in his middle-late 30s who's done rather well in life, who is really rather patriotic, who just gave a brilliant speech to this conference, and I really think having Zia as our chairman has already made a massive difference to our level of professionalisation. Around them are a small but very professional team. Just look at what they put on in this conference. Isn't it truly incredible? Isn't it beautifully done? And we're recruiting right now to get full-time regional managers and regional organisers. So I feel that my promise to professionalise the party is now on track. I also promise you that in future we will be vetting candidates rigorously at all levels. I promise you that. We haven't got time, we haven't got room for a few extremists to wreck the work of a party that now has 80,000 members and rising by hundreds every single day. Amazing. But it's on the democratisation of the party where perhaps I've been the most criticised, although, having said that, I'm quite used to being criticised for virtually everything. Any major terrible event that happens in the country is clearly my fault. It's lucky I don't care, isn't it, really? They can write what they like. I don't care, because I know what I believe in. Now, I set this up as a limited company guaranteed by shares, and I owned 60% of the shares. Now, I could make a joke and say that it led to streamlined decision-making, but I did it for two reasons. One, we had no time to get established, and it needed somebody of experience to make decisions, right or wrong, and that structure allowed me to do that. But secondly, I did it because new or nascent political parties are vulnerable to being hijacked by extremist groups and bad actors. And all the while I had control of it, that could never happen. That could never happen. Because we don't want extremists. We don't want bigots. We don't want people who think that way, because we represent the silent, decent majority of this great country that we live in. But the time has come. The infant that Reform UK was has been growing up. We had the teenage tantrums, which were those that caused us harm in the general election. But we're now at a different point. The party is an adult. And this weekend is when Reform UK comes of age. We come of age, and so I've got to make, and I want to make, the necessary adjustments. There will be before you tomorrow, we've had it already on email, there'll be a vote tomorrow morning on a constitution for the party. We changed the structure of the party. No longer will it be a company guaranteed by shares, but a company limited by guarantee. It'll be a non-profit making organisation, and I will not be the shareholder. In fact, do you know who's going to be the shareholder of Reform UK? You, the members, will own this party. You will own this party, not me. And we will have a board to manage the party with significant elected representation from the members. And that board will be there to safeguard how we're operating, to prevent entryism. We wouldn't want a Corbyn-style takeover, would we, of our party as Labour suffered a few years ago. But the real story of this conference and of the plan for the future is not the share structure. It's not the management board. It's this. We have already set up, and we are in process of setting up right now across the country, and bear in mind we've done this in 2 months, 266 constituency associations. That is an incredibly fast move. But we need those branch associations in literally every constituency in the land. I went up in the campaign to Sunderland to do a public event. It was organised at 48 hours notice, and 1,000 people arrived. It was incredible. And we were there in Sunderland, where they don't generally like people from Newcastle. But we had Sir John Hall, who was there, who's here with us today. Welcome, Sir John. Lovely to see you. And really good to see you. And John said to me, and he's getting on a bit, but he's done a few things in life, and he's rather bright. He said to me, the problem is these 1,000 people, you remember, they'll all go home and not know anybody else. And it's really what Anne Middleton was talking about this morning. It's about building teams. It's about having unity. And it's through the branches that we get these structures. It's through the branches that we raise money. It is through the branches that we find the necessary candidates to fight elections. It is through the branches that we actually become part of the local community, not just a national political party. And there is a template for this. Now, I never thought I'd say this, but we have to model ourselves on the Liberal Democrats. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll see me cascading down waterfalls, and I won't behave in a way that I think is particularly stupid, even if others think I do. Now, the Liberal Democrats build branches. The Liberal Democrats win seats at district, county and unitary level. The Liberal Democrats build on that strength. The Liberal Democrats put literature and leaflets through doors repeatedly in their target areas. And despite the fact they haven't got any policies at all, in fact, the whole thing's really rather vacuous, isn't it? But they managed with a vote much lower than ours to win 72 seats in Parliament. So not only am I giving you the shares of the party, I'm actually giving you the responsibility for making this a success. Whatever we do, whatever I do, or Richard does, or Zia does, or the rest of the MPs do, whatever our management team do, whatever our social media guys do, that can only take us so far. We will not realise our dream unless the People's Army of supporters are organised, unless the People's Army of supporters are helped to professionalise, unless that People Armies fight elections not just as a paper name on the ballot, but with the intention of winning as many seats as we can. This party will succeed or fail in its historic mission according to what you 4,000 good folk are able to do and to impart over the course of the next few years. It's up to you. It really is up to you. Now, I'm used to being on impossible political journeys. I was told, Nigel, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your breath. Britain will never, ever leave the European Union. Well, it might have taken a long time, but you know what? we damn well did it against the entirety of the British establishment. And so, when Zia comes along as chairman and says, well, it's obvious, we're fighting to win the next general election. And people think, that Zia bloke, you know, I mean, he might have been all right in business, but he's lost his marbles. But I don't think there's ever been a time when there is greater disenchantment in the two big parties that have dominated our political life for the last 100 years. Labour have not won through love. So the opportunity is there, and that is why we must take the English county council elections next year, plus areas like Doncaster and areas like Thurrock, where the district councils are up. Our first big test of fire comes on the first Thursday in May next year. We're going to need over 2,000 candidates. We're going to need you organised behind them, helping them. I genuinely believe if we get next May right, we can produce a result that is truly astonishing. We can get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people elected to councils, to be given positions of responsibility, to make us part of the lives of folk living in their communities. The opportunity is enormous. So I ask you, are you going to help us in this historic mission? Thank you. And we'll go on. We'll go on the next year. Scotland, what a remarkable, well done for coming, thank you. Saw a couple of kilts earlier, I thought they must have come from there. The fact we're neck and neck in the polls with the Conservatives in Scotland already, the fact that a small team managed to field candidates who didn't embarrass us in every single one of those Scottish constituencies, there are opportunities there. In Wales, Wales will elect under the D'Hondt proportional representation system. It is it not, David, the most astonishing opportunity? And these are all our building blocks. These are all the big hurdles, I guess, that we have to get over. But if we succeed in 25, we build even bigger in 26, and we keep going, then I promise you, sky is the limit. Sky is the limit. And you know, have a look at what we're up against. The journalists are obsessed with who is going to be the next Conservative leader. Who is the one I most want? Who is the one I least want? Well, from what I can work out, one of them is campaigning as a Liberal Democrat. One of them thinks that having worked at McDonald's for a week makes them working class. One of them appears to have had a Damascene conversion from being part of the establishment and the established view to suddenly saying things that many of us in this room would agree with, but lacks any discernible personality whatsoever, and would lead a party that is split down the middle anyway. And the last of the four has got the most inappropriate surname I've ever come across in my life, which indicates an IQ rather higher than I actually believe they have. And the truth is, I don't give a damn who the next leader of the Conservative Party is. I really don't. The point about them, it doesn't matter who leads them, the brand is bust. The brand is broken. People will not go back to them. They've let us down so badly. And as for Labour, I mean, goodness me, have you ever known a new Prime Minister get off to a worse start than Keir Starmer? It's truly shocking. I mean, the message of things can only get worse is hardly inspiring, is it? And now we're living in a state, and you all know it, but they'll deny it in Westminster until the cows come home. We're living in a state with two-tier policing. We're living in a state with two-tier justice. We're living in a state that is led by two-tier care, and we've had enough already. One in four of those that voted Labour in the general election on July the 4th, 1 in 4 already say they are considering, they're inclined to vote for Reform UK. Already. We do not need to change the mind of a single person living in this country, because the silent majority is already with us on the key issues that we care about. We can win the next general election just with the numbers of people that agree with our principles, that agree that family, that agree that community, that agree that country should be the things that absolutely that everybody in British public life campaigns for, because they are the most important things to all of us that live here. No. What we have to do is to be credible. What we have to do is to be on the ground everywhere. What we have to do is to show that we can bring success after success after success. If we do those things, we genuinely can. I never thought I'd say this, but I genuinely believe we can change the future of politics. We can change the future of our country. We can perhaps get back a little bit of pride in what it is to be British, what it is to respect our history, what it is to stand up for our values, what it is to understand the Judeo-Christian culture underpins everything we are, everything we've ever stood for, everything we believe. To end this madness that is going through corporate life, that is going through, in fact, most of the public sector. Which reminds me, there's a lady called Dame Alison Rose. Now, she was the head of NatWest Bank, but saw fit for her organisation not just to debank me, but to leak confidential information about me to her mates at the BBC. Well, of course, she was fired, and I was delighted, but she's now got a big new highly paid job. Isn't that good? She's gone to Mishcon to Raya, and she's in charge of equality, diversity, and inclusion. So given her track record, we wish Mishcon to Raya the very, very best of luck. But we believe in meritocracy. We believe that a society looks after its weak, but encourages everybody else to do the very best it can. And we don't care in this party. We don't care about skin colour. We don't care about orientation. We couldn't care less who you are. We care whether you share the values of this country. We care whether you obey the law. And we'll judge you on who you are. We'll judge you on who you are as a person. Isn't this what everybody wants? Is that what we're going to fight for? Can we succeed? Can we make history? Are you going to be part of it? Thank you very, very much indeed.